Hi, it's Chris Henry with the Fox Group, and I'm here at Telecom 2015 with John Arnold of J and Associates. John, welcome.
Hey, thank
Good
you.
to see you.
Thank you.
Good to
Same
see
here.
you.
Good to be here. Always good to chat and be at these events. You know, we don't have a lot of them in Canada, and it's really nice to have these industry get-togethers. It's a small world, and it's great we can all fit in one space in one time.
Yeah, definitely, definitely.
Yeah.
So I'm very intrigued and interested in what you're doing as an entrepreneur and as an industry analyst. Can you tell me what
Sure.
it is that you focus on?
Well, sure. So industry analysts, as a general rule of thumb, follow trends in the market they're covering. So in this case, it's telecom, communications technologies. That's the space that I'm in, much like what your companies do here with the consultants. So the telecom consultants really know the products, the technologies, how to help businesses deploy those technologies and evaluate vendors. And as an analyst, we tend to follow the industry trends in general. So I keep close to what's happening in the worlds of contact center, unified communications, VoIP, cloud communications. So I stay close to all the vendors. I go to a lot of industry events. I speak at events and write about this stuff a lot. So part of what I do as an analyst is I provide thought leadership to the marketplace. So I'm vendor neutral, and I speak to what I see in terms of what's driving the marketplace, why are things changing, what do you have to be watching for, what defines value for businesses, what technologies are right for what applications create value in your business, that kind of thing. So I help businesses understand those technologies and how to make them work inside their environments to cater to what's changing, because as we know, there's changes all the time, and nobody could keep up on all the technologies that we all kind of have to live with every day. So that keeps people like me in business. Because
How do you keep up with it?
well, you have to pick your spots, right? I mean, you can't be an expert in everything, you know? So my focus initially was on VoIP, and that was a pretty rich space for a while. It matured pretty quickly, and now VoIP is kind of like part of other things, right? So UC is like the new umbrella that a lot of communications technologies fall under. So I kind of stay in that space. So I don't get into, like, you could branch off into things like, you know, carrier infrastructure. You could get into things like wireless technology. So I'm not an expert in every area, that's for sure. But
So what is your focus? Where are you focused now
so
after VoIP?
yeah, it's communications and collaboration. So I mean, UC is pretty established as a category these days. It's hard to define, but that's kind of good for people like me because we help explain it. But it's really moving into this whole area of collaboration. How do businesses get their people working together more effectively and make the operations run more smoothly, keep people engaged? So they need to know what tools are available and how to use them. So I help them understand, well, okay, you need voice, you need data, you need video, you need mobility. All these things can fall under the unified communications umbrella, and there are different pieces to that you need to understand. That's kind of what I look at a lot. And this also bridges over into the contact center world too, because the agents in a contact center are also using multiple applications day to day. They're in this what they call multi-channel environment now, right, where they use voice, data, text, you know, real-time, near real-time applications. So there's a mix of things that they could be using. So they're actually the prototypical UC users. We just don't call it UC. We just call it contact center. But there's a lot of parallels there. So to me, there's enough of a world there to stay on top of and understand who's playing in this space. And that's another interesting part too, because even here at this event, we're familiar with most of the vendors here. They're the traditional guys we've known a long time. But there's emerging players coming into this space from outside the traditional communications industry, because the technology, especially in the cloud, makes it easy for those companies to get into these markets. And you even see Apple is chasing the enterprise market because they see it's a big growth opportunity if you approach it the right way. So there's a lot of disruption, right? A lot of status quo being turned over, and it's a really interesting time to follow all these things. So
good.
events like this are really timely for
And
doing
you're
that.
speaking tomorrow. What are your key messages when you speak tomorrow?
Sure, yeah, so I'm on in the afternoon. I think it's 2:20, and the theme is 5 trends in UC to watch out for in 2016. So I'm talking about things like the millennials are becoming an important part of the workforce now. That has huge implications for what collaboration looks like. The buying process is changing. IT decision making is becoming a very different world now than it was a couple of years ago. And they have a lot of catching up to do. There's implications for channels, how you sell these technologies, for IT, how you consume these technologies, and for decision makers who are in the management ranks, how do you invest in these technologies? What constitutes an ROI? What constitutes a business value from these technologies? So those are the kind of things I'll be talking about, what I'm seeing out there in the marketplace, and what these companies, what decision makers and budget makers have to look out for. What do they have to be looking at next year and beyond for how to leverage these technologies? Because they're changing all the time, right? So next year I'll have another 5 trends about something else, right?
Oh, that's good. Well, John, thanks for sharing some of your insights and trends with us.
You're welcome.
And have a great rest of Telecom 2015.
Thanks, same
All
to
the
you.
best. Cheers.
Same. Okay.